have a service as president of the Presidency of the Council. There are some priorities which
I'm afraid you should
which is selected by yourself, and there are some priorities which is dictated by the surroundings, the context of the European politics. The issue which we have selected, and as a prime guideline of our presidency, is competitiveness. To find the proper answer to the major challenge that we Europeans and European Union is losing our competitiveness. So, to be more concrete, the target is that in November, we would like to put together an agreement of the Prime Ministers and Presidents of European Union on a new competitiveness pact. That's what we are working on. But of course, there are two other issues which you can consider as priority. This is the war. Don't forget that the European Union is a peace project, and now we have a war in Europe. And the other one is migration, which is disintegrating more and more the European structures, and you can see the immediate consequences just the last elections in Germany. So we can't avoid to consider migration and war as a guideline of our activity, but the selected issue as prime target is competitiveness of the European economy.
Okay, so let's stay on competitiveness for a second. A couple of days ago, Mario Draghi was presenting to a selected group of...
Just leaked.
No, just leaked, no. There are a few speeches around where you can absolutely understand what's the direction, and they repeated very clearly that to be able to compete, Europe has to be strong, united, more united than ever, or there is no alternative. It's gone. We are not going to have any possibility to be relevant and to play our role in the global scenario. So the idea is be even more united with a very strong agenda in terms of union, which seems to be a little bit on the opposite direction from what you normally say about Europe.
So when I'm speaking about the competitiveness of Europe, I mainly mean three things. First is the reconsideration of the Green Deal, because up to now the Green Deal is run against the business community and the logic and interest of business. A clear example is just the latest decision of the European Union on customs of Chinese cars. I met previously the main car producers, leaders in Europe, BMW, Mercedes and others, and they said it's very much against their interest. So if there is a sector of industry which we would like to protect, to introduce some protectionist custom system, but the leaders of that sector disagree with that, why we are doing that? So it's obvious that the Green Deal is not managing together with the business, it's managed many times against the interest of the business. So therefore the reconsideration of Green Deal is necessary, that's the first. The second is bureaucracy. So if we would like to be more competitive, we need far less complicated bureaucratic procedures and less bureaucrats anyway. And the number three is to make decisions to draw back, to invite back the investments to Europe, because now even the European companies are investing in North America and China instead of investing in Europe, because the climate of investments in Europe is not attractive enough. So this is the three main issues when I'm speaking about competitiveness, is the very concrete points we are negotiating on.
And on the side of being more united and being more effective in working together?
It's always good if you have clear targets. So to work together is not a target. The question is to work together for what? So if you don't define
But
the target,
targets could be
cooperation by itself is not a value, you know? So the target creates a value and the guideline. So that's, of course.
The targets could be a more integrated Europe on fiscal issues, on common debt, on common defense. I mean, there are tons of priorities.
I have another approach. I understand your point, but I have another approach. If we consider cooperation and closer cooperation at that level, I think what we need is a stronger cooperation on the market union, definitely. Stronger cooperation on market union. Strengthen it as much as we can. If we speak about the political union, we don't need it at all. Forget about it. So we don't need political union. That kills the European Union in terms of competitiveness. It's a kind of disintegration factor. And then, if you think about cooperation, the union of defense, it must be established. So, in a nutshell, more union on markets, no union on political issues, and to establish a political union on defense. That's the guideline I follow.
You know, it's kind of weird because this morning President Mattarella, introducing and opening this event, was telling us that Europe cannot be just a common interest on economic issues, that the democratic process inside Europe, which means also discuss, have different views, and vote, is the key part of it. If not, there is no Europe.
Of course, it's obvious. But the political challenge is not coming on that field. If you look at what is the political challenge to the European Union, which is totally reshaping the political arena, is the war, the migration, the gender, and labor-based society, full employment. These are the issues, not the very general European values. We all agree on general European values because we have a basic treaty. The basic treaty says clearly what are the basic values as fundamentals of the European Union. So there's no discussion on that at all. But there are issues, even existential issues, which we don't have common answer. And this is war and peace, migration, gender, labor-based society, full employment. These are the real issues. That's the reason why I'm saying that we should be careful to argue in favor of political union, because on the war, on the gender, on the migration, and on the labor-based society issue, we have different approaches. So if you force us to come together on issues we don't agree, you disintegrate the European Union. You look at migration. Migration is an issue which is a disintegrating factor. Why do we need it? So if you have a problem in Italy and in many countries that you decided to let many migrants come in, and now you have difficulties how to manage to live together with them. It's a serious problem. But there are some countries which never took that road. We never let them in. So we don't have migrants at all, zero. We have a problem, not how to leave them together, how not let them come into our countries. It's two different issues, you know? So you can't manage both different kind of difficulties on the same political instrument. So it would be far better, let's say, on migration to provide opt-out for those countries who would not like to follow the common migration policy. It's far better to provide opt-out than force them to come together than disintegrating by the conflicts of the whole European structure.
This morning there has been a debate on this stage about the fact that migration can't be considered as a wall because there's legal migration, which will be very much needed in future if you have a look to demography and the labor market. But again, I don't want to leave too many topics aside because we have also to open the floor, and I'd like to talk
it's
about
an
the war.
important point, but who defined whether you need migration or not? Is it Brussels or you? It's impossible.
Maybe you define it together, deciding to be competitive together?
No. The question is why this issue does not belong to the national sovereignty. So to have migration, it's a decision of Italy, France, Germany, Hungary, Poland. It cannot be a common decision. Why you would like to force us? I understand on migration. I understand that you probably here or in Germany, you think that migration is a civilizational issue, and you think that if two different kind of culture...
No, I was discussing about the economy of migration, not about civilization.
May I have my point? So if you think that to live together two civilizations is useful and provide a better society, you can have a right to decide to do so. But if some other countries think it's too risky because of terrorism, because of public safety, because of the social burden, and if a country thinks it's too risky, we would not like to have that kind of new society, why we don't have a right to say no? That's the question, you know? So that's the reason why certain issues should not belong to Brussels to be decided, but rather stay on the national level, belonging to the sovereignty of the member states.
Yeah, that, again, if you translate this into economy, that could be a problem when you come to talk about...
You are right, but whether is it your job or to Brusselians, bureaucrats to decide whether in Hungary
too
or
many
Italy,
other topics to touch upon.
Sorry, but I would like to put a point at the end of my answer. So who can define and make a decision whether you as a country should live with migrants because it's reasonable economically or not? Whose decision is that? It belongs to the people and the elected leaders of the nations, not to the imperialistic center of any integration reforms. We will never accept that, of course.
Okay, let's move
was it
to the war.
Sorry, was it unpolite? Was it unpolite?
No, it's okay. We're discussing. There's not a matter of being polite.
So I'm not sure whether I could have different opinion than the general mainstream.
It's possible to have a different opinion. That's democracy, and I like it. So that's fine.
Please allow me to conclude my sentence. And
And the problem is, okay, let's talk about war. Okay, and Russia invading Ukraine. One day you said. The problem is not who invaded whom, which I don't think Ukrainians share as an opinion. And when you got to presidency, immediately there was kind of a turmoil because you didn't say anything to anybody, looks like, and you went to Kiev and Moscow and Beijing all in a row. So,
and Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Mar-a-Lago as well. But to Mar-a-Lago, we will go in a second. Let's stay in Europe for a second. So basically, what's your idea, if there's one, of how you can move towards the end of this war that Russia started with the invasion in February without translating that into a defeat for the Ukrainians?
So my experience on wars, this is not my first war. I'm serving as prime minister more than 22 years. So my first war was the Balkanian War. And I do remember the war on Georgia. So what I'm speaking about is not reading things on, you know. So I have some experiences how to manage wars and how to manage peace. And the Balkan War was just the next neighborhood to Hungary. So we were in a very dangerous situation. So I have some experiences. And that's the reason why I thought that we have to do a peace mission. The first lecture I have got from my practice is...
Mister, I'm afraid they don't hear you too well, so that would be much better. Let's see.
So the first thing is that if there is no communication, no chance to stop the war. So communication is the number one. Very few wars in the European history went on without communication with the fighting parties. And what we are doing is bad because we don't have communication line to the Russians. So we need communication to Ukraine and we need communication to Russia as well. That's the first. The second is ceasefire. So if we are waiting to have a peace plan which is accepted by both warring parties, there will be never peace. Because the first step is not the peace plan. The first step is ceasefire. If you look at the stories of the wars in the last 30 years, at least 3 ceasefires belong to one peace plan. So you can't start to make peace by peace plan. Peace plan is very important. But first communication, second ceasefire, then to start to negotiate on peace plan. This is the right order. We are not doing that at this moment. That's the reason I went to Kiev first, then to Moscow, then to Beijing, then to Washington NATO summit, and then to Mar-a-Lago, hopefully to the next president of the United States, to discuss the war.
It's done. It's already done.
Hopefully,
you have the result.
hopefully. We can discuss the odds, but this is not the issue for today, probably. So I went there to understand what are the chances of the peace. And my conclusion was, especially after the two meetings with the president of Ukraine and Russia, that there is no intention, neither sides, to have peace. Both parties said, both leaders said, that they think that the time is on their side. If you think as warring party that the time is on your side, you will continue. So my impression is that there is no real intention, whatever they are saying, there is no real intention, neither sides, to make a ceasefire and a quick peace. So therefore, that was the reason I went to Beijing and to Washington as well. So I think now we should create an international context and surrounding which embodies and expresses convincingly that the whole world, not only the South, but the whole world, even Europe, would like to have ceasefire as soon as we can. So without having that international surrounding the war, just the two parties to convince any of the warring parties, it's not helpful. So we need a big circle of peace of friends. Otherwise, we can't move to the peace. That was my impression.